Everyone, it is time once more for us to let Todd into our hearts. Again, this joke has gone on too long. I don't even remember when it started. We started lighting candles to Todd and having the cardboard cut out. Like, I don't know what happened, but we're in too deep now, and we're not going to let the meme die now. So we're going to stick to it and keep doing it, even though I'm sure it makes him very uncomfortable. I really hope one day I have the good fortune of meeting our patron saint, and I'll tell you what, it's going to be so freaking funny and very awkward. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. This is still a thing, huh? Yeah, Raymond, we're not giving up on it. Dude's going to be like 80 years old when Fallout 5 comes out, and we'll still be lighting candles. We'll still be doing it. Maybe, you know what, Todd, call me. We can start like our own merch line. Imagine how successful that would be if Todd launched his own candle company that I could help market, and we call it like a whiff of Todd. Oh man. Ah, brilliant. We're on track. We're going to make so much money. But the reason we lit the candle today was not just for poops and giggles, but because there's a new article out from the one and only Paul Tassi, who a lot of people don't like for some reason. I don't know why people don't like Paul. I mean, he plays Destiny, so strike one, but beyond that, he does pretty solid writing in my experience. And you can see he did this article here. Former Starfield dev says Bethesda should switch to Unreal Engine 5. Now, we've talked about this a ton, but the age-old question has been, why do they keep the creation engine? It seems to be significantly behind the competition year in, year out. And there's been a number of defenses put out by Todd and by the company that really, some of them are more legitimate and I think valid than others, frankly. I know it's easy for us to meme on some of them, but I think I get what he's saying with some of it. So basically what Todd says is, yes, it's true that while the competition is seeing their technology scale like this, so we'll maybe say like the red engine. Oh, I should probably do this in red text, shouldn't I? Red engine. Okay. This is what Cyberpunk's engine looks like. From The Witcher 3 to Cyberpunk 2.0 and Phantom Liberty. Like, it just keeps getting better and better, blowing your mind. The creation engine, on the other hand, tends to go like this. And so even though back here, it's not that far behind, after more time passes, it gets further and further and further behind, to the point where it's not even in the same ballpark. I mean, it's like a full generation behind, which is where they were kind of at with Starfield, certainly with Fallout 76. And they've already confirmed that Elder Scrolls 6 will be running with the Creation Engine 2. They're not even going to pretend to put another number on it, calling it like 3, because they can do that. They're saying it's going to be in the Creation Engine 2, same toolkit used for Starfield. So it's probably going to look a little bit better in some instances, but probably not much. It's probably going to look like Starfield, but with swords and trees. So the reason Todd has previously said that they aren't moving to a different engine is because, for one, they have a lot of proprietary tools. That's unquestionably true. No question there. They have some tools they have built for like world generation, for scripting, for questing, for dialogue or animations and stuff that are proprietary to the creation engine and that they are used to using. And if they were to move to Unreal Engine 5, they would lose that stuff. That's true. Counterpoint would be Unreal has their own tools for a lot of that. And they have tools that are not really, like, there is nothing comparable in the Creation Club or the Creation Kit. Like, there's just nothing even on that same level. Just for the Witcher 3 video, you guys will see this when it launches here, like probably within the next week for members, certainly. But there is something called motion matching, and it's something that, for example, like Naughty Dog has been doing forever and Rockstar has been doing forever. But basically all it does is it blends a bunch of different animations together so that they have more realistic movements. So instead of, where's a really good example? Like, as you can see here, it takes all of these different animations together. It can figure out which animation is the most accurate given the movements that are being used. And so it creates much more realistic movements as you navigate levels. This is one of the things that Rockstar has been doing for ages that makes their characters control really well. It's something that Naughty Dog's been doing since like Uncharted 4, and they just do it tremendously well. And it avoids the problems of like Bethesda style games where, you know, it's either full sprint or light jog or walking animation, and there's no middle ground between all of them. Like there's just nothing. So motion matching, and sometimes they call it animation blending. There's a few different ways people say it, but motion matching is an example of a tool that they would get if they moved to Unreal Engine that they don't have anything close to. Like the Creation Club or the Creation Engine just does not have anything like that. So it's true that they will lose some stuff, like maybe their own proprietary cutscene system and workflow, but they will gain others and they can build new ones. And I think the argument for most people is that there will be more positives, more things gained than things lost. Because one of the things you're also going to lose is actually a gain, which is one of the strengths of the Creation Engine is that they have pretty much everything in their levels is physically simulated. So every piece of junk, every pencil laying on the desk, each fork on the table, all of those are physical objects that can be interacted with, added to your inventory, whatever else. That's good for a Fallout game. Sometimes you could also say maybe for an Elder Scrolls game, but I don't think it's as useful as they make it out to be. Like I don't see anybody saying I love Starfield because I can pick up all the spoons. Maybe there's people like that out there, but for me, I think that is something that the Creation Club or the Creation Engine can do, but I don't think anybody really cares. And the downside is that levels are really tight and they have to set up open worlds in this other weird way because of that. They also have other problems like floating or with floats causing issues with entity streaming and physical sim as you get further away from the spawn point. There's so many problems with the Creation Engine that would be alleviated if they just moved to a different toolkit. But it's not just me saying it. It's not just us fans saying it because we're frustrated that their toolkits are really out of date and they don't seem to care. It's not just us saying it now. A former Starfield dev says that they should do it too. If there was one major complaint about Starfield when it launched in 2023, it was that many aspects of the game felt dated, leaning on aging Bethesda Creation Engine tech. Yes, the engine had been upgraded many times. This was the first game built on Creation Engine 2, and there were certainly some beautiful scenes in the game. So much of it felt overly familiar with years-old Bethesda games that players wondered if it was time for a change. This was one thing that was being discussed before the game came out that maybe it was unfair of me to just immediately call BS, but I was like, okay, we have the Creation Engine and we have this here. I'm gonna demonstrate in real time how Bethesda upgraded this. Okay, we have this. What if, I can just imagine Todd in the boardroom saying this. What if we just did this and call it a day? And like everybody's like, yep, makes sense. Yeah, we just maybe put this right here. Yeah, that looks good to me. Like that's pretty much what they did. Yes, there are improvements. Yes, they did do some stuff, but to act like it was some foundational change to their workflow or to the Creation Engine to the point where it would be significantly different was just ridiculous. Like it was patently absurd. And, you know, I got into some tussles with people verbally and not really tussles, but I was frustrated that a lot of content creators were not calling them out for this because they were acting as though all of those frustrations you've had with our games previously, don't worry about it. The Creation Club or the Creation Engine now is totally fixed. I keep going to call it the Creation Club. Their branding has worked, but I wanted to call it out and be like, guys, it's improved, but do not think that they have like fixed all their problems that have plagued the Creation Engine for years and years and years. This is just a 2 slapped onto the same engine. They just felt like they made enough changes that it warrants another number. It's not like a major overhaul beyond the procedural tech that doesn't look to be very good. So like, what are we doing? But you know, it took the game coming out for people to realize how outdated it was, and there we go. At least one former Bethesda dev agrees. Nate Perkypile, a lead artist who worked on Starfield, Fallout, and Skyrim, and has now set up his own studio, in a recent interview with Kiwi Talks, he explained why he thinks it's time for the Bethesda to move over to Unreal Engine after all this time. This is the same guy that we watched that video like a year ago on the game he's making. Axis Unseen, is this it? Do you guys remember this? There are no textures in the game. It's all just using like nanite tech. And so it's like a survival game. He made everything. He coded everything. He did all the art. He did everything. It's made by like one dude. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. But he did all of this. And yeah, there he is. That's him. That's cool that he's actually playing it. That's fun. So that's this guy, to be clear. That this is the guy that's talking. He left Bethesda. He got really burnt out after some of the work he did on like Fallout 76 and early work on Starfield, if I remember correctly. So he moved on, and now he's letting it out. He said, quote, "I think it's pretty telling that there are some studios with similar tech that have made that leap lately, like CD Projekt Red. It's not to say that it wouldn't be a ton of work. Sure, that's completely true. It's not like you're just going to be able to start making the game. But when you have this large tool base and large knowledge base people could pull from, it's easier to hire people and ramp up. I'm of the opinion that it's easier to stay relevant and not always try to play catch up. Like a lot of what was done on Starfield was trying to get all these rendering systems and animation systems up to snuff, and it makes it hard to even actually make the game. The way I describe it to people is that you're on a train, but also laying the train tracks at the same time. But it's also on fire the entire time." Yeah, that sounds right. That checks out. That's funny. Yeah, so 80 level quoted this, said former Starfield and Fallout dev Perkypile explains why switching to Unreal Engine 5 would be a better choice. And they didn't quote anything directly there, but he said, "This is me in case it's not clear. I'm not saying it would be zero work. Obviously it'd be a ton. I just think that it's less work than the constant need to play catch up and the lost productivity due to how that engine works. I've shipped games with both." There are no indications that Bethesda will be moving off Creation Engine for future projects. Elder Scrolls 6 will use Creation Engine 2, just like Starfield, which has drawn some concern among, well, Starfield players. Again, we pointed it out. We've done surveys and polls of you guys with like 70,000 plus responses. Not a small sample size. And my audience is like a lot of RPG and narrative game fans, okay? That like fantasy stuff, like The Witcher, the prime audience for an Elder Scrolls 6. And only something stupid, I believe it was like 6% of people in the last poll said that they were more excited for Elder Scrolls 6 after playing Starfield. Everybody else was either the same or less excited. And that is the polar opposite of what you want. You want people playing X game, and when they play Y game and Z game, they just keep ramping up the excitement because they're like, wow, they really know what they're doing. When you play Phantom Liberty, you get more excited for The Witcher 4 because you see what they're capable of. When you play freaking God of War 2018, you get more excited for God of War Ragnarok. That's what should happen normally. This is not a problem unique to Bethesda. Engine problems have been cited in a number of significant delays from companies ranging from EA with the Frostbite engine to Bungie with the Tiger engine, with many fans saying just switch to Unreal. And sometimes they do, but as Perkypile suggests, it's not easy. And others say it's not worth it. Here's former Starfield systems designer Bruce Nesmith on the idea. We also watched this whole interview and stuff. It was interesting. Do they have the video of it? I don't see the video linked. The full video is very interesting. Bruce Nesmith is a fascinating guy, but he said, quote, "The Creation Engine has evolved to do exactly the kinds of games that Bethesda makes, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Starfield. It's perfectly tuned to that kind of game. That's the penalty side. That's the risk side." Which, yeah, it is fine-tuned to a certain extent. But I think what is pretty clear is that the advantages the Creation Engine brings, players are not connecting with. They just aren't. Like, players are not getting super giggly at the idea that they can pick up every spoon and fork that's in the environment. In a game like Fallout, again, that makes more sense. In a game like Starfield, and even the Elder Scrolls to a lesser extent, I don't think makes as much sense. It's not as useful or as interesting a mechanic to have. And I think there's a lot of downsides to it. And that's the other piece, is that the creation engine single-handedly, like when you mention it, people do not think stunning tech. They think buggy, broken mess. And the Unreal Engine has many, many problems. We've watched videos, many of them, even in the last month or so, outlining some of the significant problems that engine has. Threat Interactive does a tremendous job of breaking down some of these problems, and like the problem with all of the reliance on temporal upscalers, on frame generation, on GPU optimization issues. Like, they do a ton of great breakdowns on all of these problems, and I find it fascinating. You should go watch all of their videos. But the point is, just from a branding perspective, people think Unreal Engine, they think amazing graphical fidelity. They do think it's heavy to run. And recently, I think they probably think of like stutters and like shader compilation issues, but they're working very hard to overcome that. Creation Engine, though, I don't think anybody thinks positively of that. Like, I don't think anybody does. Could they physicalize all the objects they use in Unreal Engine 5? Probably with a lot of work, but the Creation Engine is specifically tailored for physical simulation of all those objects, which is why they kind of create scenes that you play in, and you can't really, like, it's why there's a load screen between every door. When you go inside a building, there's a load screen, because as you load into that new area, it's a new simulation almost, if you think of it like that. And so they just can't get to the point if they go and have all the interiors and exteriors as part of one gigantic scene. The Creation Engine just cannot handle that. So you have to break it up into smaller scenes, and then one big outdoor scene that has much less physical interaction. You'll notice in Fallout 4, for example, there's not a whole lot of physical sim junk spilled on the ground while you're exploring in the wastes. There just isn't. Inside the interiors, lots. But outside, there's not hardly any. And it's because of that simple reality of how they set it up. Going on with this, I think just from a branding perspective, when you're trying to sell customers on your game, if your tool set is such an albatross around your neck that people sigh when they hear you're using it, that's not a great sign. It's just not. It's the same thing like if they announce that, Christopher Nolan's new movie, it's launching exclusively on TikTok. Like, why shoot yourself in the foot? Like, immediately people are less excited. He's like, I filmed it vertical because you all have phones, don't you? Everybody would be like, I don't care. Like, I want to go to the movie theater. Like, come on. And whenever you have any announcement or any piece of your framing that makes your audience less excited or that makes them sigh and cringe, if you can fix it, if you can address it, I feel like you should, but maybe the costs are just too high. It seems pretty clear which side Bethesda has come down on, at least for the foreseeable future. We still do not have a date on Elder Scrolls 6, but the fact that it was announced in 2018 and we are headed into 2025 does not paint a picture of speedy development. Exactly. But as Nesmith notes, you can also make great games and bad games on Unreal Engine, and Creation Club, or Creation Engine, has certainly been responsible for some great ones. But is, quote, laying down the tracks while on fire sustainable in the indefinite future? I guess that's a call Bethesda needs to make, at least for now. And at least for now, they've made that decision. I think it's pretty clear that Todd does not feel the benefits outweigh the downsides. I don't know if it's just overconfidence or if it's that he knows something we don't about Elder Scrolls 6, that he's like the creation or the Unreal Engine just can't do it. I don't know, but I guarantee you, like, I can see the videos and the memes already being made. I can already see the memes being made of Elder Scrolls 6 versus Witcher 4, because they're probably launching pretty damn close to each other. And let's just be honest. Is there any freaking way that Elder Scrolls 6 is graphically or detail-wise, animation-wise, musically, like, is there any chance it excels over The Witcher 4 in anything? I don't think so. And I think we all kind of know that. But that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen, is that this is going to launch next to those games. And I don't think it's even going to be close, because like I said earlier, The graph for the creation engine has not been a linear matter. It's not been that they're keeping up with everybody. The graph has been that Unreal Engine is going up at a pretty steady rate, but the creation engine has been seeing diminishing returns as time has gone by. And if we're right here, by the time Elder Scrolls 6 and Witcher 4 launch, I think the discrepancy is going to be massive. If you thought that like the memes about Starfield were bad and did damage to the game already, just you wait. Just you wait. These memes are all over the place today. These videos are all over the place today. And like, even if they are predictable and everybody knows the joke before it happens, you would think that like Bethesda would at least address it or deal with it. Like they would try to figure out how to avoid this. But this does so much brand damage to not just the creation engine, but to Bethesda in general, the perception that they are way behind everybody else. I think they've got to figure out how to deal with it. And maybe it's that when they announce Elder Scrolls 6, they just come out like very, very clearly and they say, we are dealing with those problems. We are going to make sure that everything is one consistent entity, everything streams seamlessly, whether you go inside buildings, outside buildings, which should be no duh. I mean, that's been a standard in open world games for like well over a decade at this point, but I think that they're going to have to address it that way. I think they're going to have something like that. Otherwise, they're just going to get curb stomped because again, like I think The Witcher 4 will come out so winging, and there is no way on earth that the creation engine is going to keep up with it. So we'll see, but maybe I thought Starfield would be the nail in the coffin for the creation engine, but it seems like they are not convinced it was a problem. So they're going to just try again. And maybe Elder Scrolls 6 needs to have problems and that's what's going to wake them up. But at that point, like they're probably just going to say, screw it. No, we're good. And I mean, that's the other piece of being owned by Microsoft is what's the incentive to be cutting edge? Like Microsoft for Game Pass games is more concerned. Of course, they'd like tons of sales. They'd like it to be cutting edge. They'd like it to be amazing and impressive. But more than anything, they just need games that keep people subscribed. That's the ultimate goal, is to have content that you play for a long time so you keep your subscription. If it's a 7 out of 10 that you play for 1,000 hours, that's better to them, I think, than if it's a 9 out of 10 you play for 30 hours. So we'll see. But the fact that so many Bethesda devs have left and are now like kind of talking bad about the studio, and then, you know, they have some good stuff to say, certainly, you know, it's not all bad or anything. But the fact that they're getting out there and airing some of the dirty laundry about how inefficient their processes are, where Will Shen is saying he spent a ton of his time making tutorials on how to use the creation engine. Like, I think that's pretty telling, because this is the stuff that's getting out. This is the stuff people are talking about publicly. Imagine the shit they talk behind the scenes when they're just at dinner talking with each other over the headaches of working there. Like, this is what they'll say in front of their peers publicly, and they know pricks like me are going to talk about it. Oh, Todd. Oh, Todd. What are we going to do? Trenton, thank you for the 10. Do you think BGS will ever go to Unreal Engine, or are they just going to stick with the creation engine for years to come? Also not sure why CDPR goes to Unreal Engine when their own engine feels just as good. There's a bajillion reasons why they moved to Unreal. I think chief among them is just that it's going to be way easier for them to work fast and efficiently and hire new people that can start work immediately. I think a lot of their goals are to avoid the problems of a lot of AAA developer or AAA games nowadays, which is that they get caught in development hell with engine problems and with development problems that could have been alleviated if they just stopped trying to do their own thing and started letting other companies do that for them, which Unreal Engine basically does. So I think there's that. And then also they basically were guaranteed that Epic would work night and day to make Unreal Engine work for them. And so I think that they just don't need to stress too much over it. Like they're good. They're good. You know, so I think there's that. What's the other tidbit? As for BGS swapping, I just think at this point they've said they're using it for Elder Scrolls 6. So if Starfield's here, Starfield, and then Elder Scrolls 6 is here. They're using it through here. Maybe they decide like they're going to use it for Fallout 5, which presumably comes after. But like, here's the problem. If they're going to use it for Fallout 5, they have to decide like here. Because they have to start moving everything over. They have to start building out their own proprietary stuff that they're going to need for Fallout. They have to decide before Elder Scrolls 6 launches. But I don't think that they're going to do that. I think they still love the smell of their own farts enough that they're going to just do whatever they do. And they're going to get to this point. They're going to put the game out. It's going to be panned for being technologically out of date and buggy and inconsistent in quality and all that. And then it's going to be too late. Because either they start here and are like, okay, we'll move to Unreal Engine or a different engine. We'll go beg Gorilla to give us a copy of Decima or something. Like, we'll do that. But even if they do that here, that just means this gets scooched even further. It just means that what they should have started here now starts here. So they don't really start development until you hit this point and the groundwork has been laid. So there's just no good option. And I think if they were going to use Unreal on Fallout, they would have to make that decision probably in the next like year or two and start making those moves. Because you notice they decided to move, CDPR decided to move to Unreal Engine before they entered full production. They only just went into new production, or full production rather. So they made that move before entering full production and before they really kicked it off. And they're gonna have to do something similar. He took my thing.